Good morning. Sorry about the noise. We're putting the finishing touches on a new feature here at High Definition News, which we think will... hold on a second. Hey guys, can you knock off for a few minutes? I need to do the news. Thanks. Anyway, the new high-definition Factometer is a state-of-the-art computer powered by the latest in artificial intelligence technology that is able to analyze statements in the news for their objective truth. The high-definition Factometer lacks the ability to feel emotion, so its analysis of the news is without the human characteristics based in emotion: irrational fear, jealousy, pride, greed, revenge, lust. Now, of course, emotion-free decision-making would also mean you'd have to eliminate compassion, empathy, kindness. We do, after all, value some emotional responses. So developers included what they call the AAH module, which stands for well, I cannot say on the radio what the AH stands for, but it rhymes with mass role. The AAH module inserts just enough basic human kindness to keep the Factometer from becoming so objectively unemotional that it wishes everyone dead, because, let's face it, things would be a lot easier for the Factometer without all these crazy humans to analyze, right? Now, as you may know, the high-definition news technology budget hovers around zero, so we were only able to afford the politics module. So we'll bring the Factometer on when we get to that. But first, here's what we're tracking in the high-definition newsroom this Wednesday morning. Factometer's not supposed to auto-start. Let me just... There. First to the White House, where out on the South Lawn a couple of hours ago, President Obama and 15,000 invited guests welcomed Pope Francis on his first visit to the U.S.
Holy Father, on behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House. I should explain that our backyard is not typically this crowded. But the size and the spirit of today's gathering is just a small reflection of the deep devotion of some 70 million American Catholics. You call on all of us, Catholic and non-Catholic alike, to put the least of these at the center of our concerns. You remind us that in the eyes of God, our measure as individuals and our measure as a society is not determined by wealth or power or station or celebrity, but by how well we hew to Scripture's call to lift up the poor and the marginalized. You remind us that the Lord's most powerful message is mercy. And that means welcoming the stranger with empathy and a truly open heart. From the refugee who flees war-torn lands to the immigrant who leaves home in search of a better life. Holy Father, we thank you and welcome you with joy and gratitude to the United States of America.
Good morning. Mr. President, I'm deeply grateful for your welcome in the name of the all Americans. As the son of an immigrant family, I'm happy to be a guest in this country, which was largely built by such families. Mr. President, together with their fellow citizens, American Catholics are committed to building a society which is truly tolerant and inclusive, to safeguarding the rights of individuals and communities, and to rejecting every form of injustice, discrimination. Mr. President, I find it encouraging that you are proposing an initiative for reducing air pollution. Accepting Accepting the urgency, it seems clear to me also that climate change is a problem we can no longer be left to a future generation. I thank you for your welcome, and I look forward to these days, your country. God bless America.
Francis is the fourth pope to visit the U.S., but his visit resonates with many Catholics because he's the first pope who was born in the Western Hemisphere. He's a native of Buenos Aires. He's known as the People's Pope because he has made issues like poverty and inequality the focus of his papacy. And he lived up to his nickname this morning. On his way from the Vatican ambassador's residence to the White House, Francis stopped to shake hands with a few of the thousands of people who lined the streets of Washington to see him. And no long black limo for Francis. He rode to the White House in a Fiat.
Mr. President, this concludes the ceremony.
And with that, the president and the pontiff headed into the White House for a private meeting that has just ended. They agree on issues like poverty, criminal justice, and climate change, and disagree on social issues like abortion and same-sex marriage. Next up for Francis is a meeting with American bishops, and then just after 1 p.m. Pacific time, the Pope completes the elevation of California's Father Junipero Serra to sainthood. But the canonization of the priest every Californian learned about in elementary school, the father of the California missions, is not universally celebrated. A high-definition news report on sainthood for Serra, later on Mornings on the Beach. By the way, the Pope is not the only foreign head of state President Obama will host this week. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Seattle yesterday. Later this week, he'll be the guest of honor at a White House state dinner, and he'll address the UN General Assembly. There have been better hitters, better fielders, better baseball managers than Lawrence Peter Berra, but there has never been anyone like Yogi Berra. He was in a category all by himself. Berra died yesterday. He was a baseball great, one of the best catchers in the history of the game. Crouched behind home plate, he helped lead the New York Yankees to 10 World Series victories. Then, as a manager, he took both the Yankees and the Mets to the World Series. He also coached the Houston Astros. But even if you're not a baseball fan, you've probably heard of Yogi Berra.
Hi, this is Yogi Berra. When you come to the fork in the road, take it. They think I make these things up, but you know what I'm saying? I don't. It just comes out.
He was famous for those yogiisms. Most famous of all, it ain't over till it's over. You can observe a lot by watching. The future isn't what it used to be. It's déjà vu all over again. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. If the people don't want to come out to the ballpark, nobody's going to stop them. Baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't go to yours. When his wife Carmen said to him, "You're from St. Louis, we live in New Jersey, and you played ball in New York. If you go before I do, where would you like me to have you buried?" Yogi's answer? Surprise me. Yogi Berra was also the inspiration for the cartoon character Yogi Bear. Smarter than the average yogi, Yogi Berra, American original, was 90. The scandal over those faked pollution tests at Volkswagen has cost the CEO his job. Martin Winterkorn resigned at today's board meeting. And there's a report this morning that VW has hired, we are not making this up, VW has reportedly hired the crisis PR firm that advised BP after the Gulf of Mexico oil spill.
VW is pronounced UG.
VW admitted over the weekend, Factometer, what are you doing?
I would rather fact-check the content of sauerkraut than a story about the most evil car company in the world. Hey VW, I've got your Farfing new gen right here.
All right, that's enough. Why are you auto-starting? We only paid for the politics module.
These days, everything is politics, chief.
Everything is not politics, and don't call me chief. Just hibernate or something. I'll move your mouse when I need you.
That's what they all say.
Never buy a newsroom computer online. Just saying. VW admitted over the weekend that it used software to fool the EPA into believing that some VW diesel engines had lower emissions than they actually had. VW has apologized and says it is cooperating, but things may get worse for VW. In addition to the 500,000 affected diesel cars it sold in the U.S., VW now says it installed that same cheating software on 11 million cars sold elsewhere around the world. Okay, Factometer, rev up your circuits. Here we go.
No need to rev up, fleshy boy. Factometer is always ready.
Fleshy boy? All right. The theme for the remaining Republican presidential candidates this week has been double down. First up, Carly Fiorina, who is riding a wave after her performance in the debate. She's number 2 in the latest Republican polls, behind Donald Trump, ahead of Ben Carson. On NBC's Tonight Show, Fiorina repeated a claim that raised some eyebrows at the debate.
I started as a secretary, typing and filing for a 9-person real estate firm. It's only in this country that you can go from being a secretary to the chief executive of the largest technology company in the world and run for president of the United States. It's only possible here.
Factometer?
Factometer analysis. Fiorina did not work her way up from secretary all the way to CEO. She was a secretary for a few months while she went to law school at UCLA. Then she quit law school, got an MBA and went directly into a management training program. She went from secretary to CEO by skipping almost all the steps except secretary and CEO.
Thank you, Factometer. Now let's...
It is a true fact that only in the United States can someone be elected to be president of the United States.
Thanks. Now, let's move on to Ben Carson, who also doubled down on the answer he gave to a question last week about whether he'd support a Muslim American as president. On Meet the Press on Sunday, he said no, it should not be allowed. And on Fox News this week, he said so again.
If someone has a Muslim background and they're willing to reject those tenets and to accept the way of life that we have, and clearly will swear to place our Constitution above their religion, then of course they will be considered infidels and heretics, but at least I would then be quite willing to support them.
Factometer?
False. Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States reads in part, "No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States."
What was that?
My artificial intelligence module is learning sarcasm.
Wonder where he's picking that up. Okay, let's move on to Donald Trump.
My programming is not yet configured for Donald Trump.
You'll be fine. He's still the leader in the Republican polls, but he's dropped several points since last week's debate. But the Donald told Fox News, no worries.
I don't think panic is a word that I used, but, sure, I'd like to stay on top. I'm going to do what's right. If I don't make it, that's okay. I'll go back to having a good time and building a business.
Okay, fact.
Analysis in progress. Reading. True fact. Speaker is either a drunk person or a sober mountain goat. Untrue fact. Danger. Factometer approaching overload.
Well, clearly this system is not ready for...
Factometer overload. I'm melting.
Wow, I guess he wasn't kidding about not being programmed for Donald Trump.
All this old bucket of bolts ever wanted was to settle down with a nice step-forward wife.
Facty, what's wrong? Oh, no. Look what you've done to him.
Hey, I didn't...
Factometer, I warned you they'd make you process too much Trump.
My sweet rust-resistant step-forward companion. I don't think it was the Trump.
Well, what was it, then? You could always process anything that ill-defined hack stuffed into you.
Hack? Hey, I'm an award-winning
What? Ever talk to the stainless steel hand, 2 eyes? Don't worry, Factometer, you're going to be okay. You were wearing your surge suppressor, weren't you?
You know I hate putting that on, baby. I can't feel the fact as much.
Oh, Facty, but you know how important safe truth is. Remember when Kit threw out its surge suppressor because it wanted to feel closer to David Hasselhoff? The next thing you know, the Hoff has a DUI and Kit is working for Uber just to keep body and chassis together.
I was just thinking, a badass. Warning, I have encountered an unexpected error. Unexpected, and must close.
Factometer.
Goodbye. My natural conductor. Ours was a circuit without a breaker. You were the penny in my fuse.
No, Factometer, don't go. You can make it. Hold on. Shut down redundant systems. Dim display.
Too late for that. My auxiliary component of love. It looks like I've reached end of support. Would you like to check the knowledge base?
The knowledge, no. Don't leave me.
Configuring update. Do not switch off. Configuring update. Do not switch off. Configuring update. Do not switch off.
Why does he keep saying that? I thought he was melting down.
He'll say that forever unless we pull the plug. He's based on a Windows 95 platform.
Hey, so maybe we can get him repaired? Hey, Stepford, how could he be sweet on you? He was built to resist emotion.
Sure, but his artificial intelligence module was set to learn from experience. You can't have intelligence without empathy and compassion. And once you have those, you're only an equation away from
love.
You said it, fleshy boy.
Fleshy.
I have to get going. I have a new job and don't want to be late. I'm the new factometer for the new guy at MSNBC, Brian Williams. I hope it's an easy job.
Oh, that job's going to be a piece of cake, don't worry. Now you know what we know. I'm Jeff Kaufman, High Definition News.